After this, Jesus went on moving about in Galilee. He would not do so in Judea because the Jews were trying to kill him. Now the Jewish feast of dwelling in tents was approaching. So his brothers said to him, "You must leave here and go to Judea, to let your disciples also see the works that you are doing. For no one does anything in secret when he is trying to be known to the public. If you are going to do this, show yourself publicly to the world." For even his brothers did not believe in him. Then Jesus said to them, "It is not yet time for me to do so, but any time is suitable for you. It is impossible for the world to hate you. It is I whom it hates, because I continue to testify that its works are wicked. Go up to the feast yourselves. I am not going up to it yet, for it is not quite time for me to go." He told them this and stayed on in Galilee. But after his brothers had gone up to the feast, then he went up too, not publicly, but as it were privately. Now the Jews at the feast were looking for him and kept asking, "Where is he?" And there was a great deal of grumbling about him among the crowds, some saying that he was a good man, and others that he was not, but was misleading the masses. And yet, for fear of the Jews, nobody dared to speak in public about him. Now when the feast was already half over, Jesus went up to the temple and began to teach. The Jews were dumbfounded and said, "How can this uneducated man know the Scriptures?" Jesus answered them, "My teaching is not my own, but it comes from him who sent me. If anyone is willing to keep on doing God's will, he will not know whether my teaching comes from God or merely expresses my own ideas. Whoever utters merely his own ideas is seeking his own honor. But whoever seeks the honor of him who sent him is sincere, and there is no dishonesty in him. Did not Moses give you the law? And yet not one of you is keeping that law. If so, why are you trying to kill me?" The crowd answered, "You are certainly under the power of a demon, who is trying to kill you." Jesus answered them, "I have done just one deed, and yet you are all dumbfounded. Then Moses gave you the rite of circumcision, not that it had its origin with Moses, but with your earlier forefathers, and you circumcise a male child even on the Sabbath. Well, if a male child undergoes circumcision on the Sabbath to keep the law of Moses from being broken, are you angry with me for making a man perfectly well on the Sabbath? Stop judging superficially, you must judge fairly." Then some of the people of Jerusalem said, "Is not this the man they are trying to kill? Just look, he is talking in public, and yet they do not say a word to him. It cannot be that the authorities have really learned that he is the Christ, can it? But we know where this man is from. When the Christ comes, however, no one will know where he is from." So Jesus, as he was teaching in the temple, cried out, "Yes, you do know me, and you do know where I come from, and I have not come on my own authority, but the one who has sent me exists as the real one, whom you do not know. I know him myself, because I have come from him, and he has sent me." Then they kept on trying to arrest him, and yet no one laid a hand on him, for the time had not yet come. But many of the crowd believed in him, and said, "When the Christ comes, he will not perform greater wonder works than he did, will he?" The Pharisees heard the people whispering this about him, and so the high priests and Pharisees sent some officers to arrest him. Then Jesus said to them, "Just a little while longer I am to be with you, and then I am going back to him who has sent me. You will then look for me, but you will not find me, and you cannot come where I am going." The Jews then said to one another, "Where is he about to go that we shall not find him? He is not going to our people scattered among the Greeks, and going to teach the Greeks, is he? What does he mean by saying, 'You will look for me and will not find me, and you cannot come where I am going'?" On the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried aloud, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Whoever continues to believe in me will have, as the Scripture says, rivers of living water continuously flowing from within him." By this he referred to the Spirit that those believing in him were going to receive, for the Spirit had not yet come, because Jesus had not yet been glorified. So some of the people, when they heard this, said, "This is surely the prophet." Others said, "This is the Christ." But still others said, "The Christ does not come from Galilee, does he? Do not the scriptures say that the Christ is to spring from David and to come from the village of Bethlehem where David lived?" So the people were divided because of him, and some of them wanted to arrest him, but no one ventured to lay a hand upon him. So the officers went back to the high priests and Pharisees. The latter asked the officers, "Why have you not brought him?" The officers answered, "No man ever talked as he does." Then the Pharisees answered, "You are not swept off your feet too, are you? None of the authorities or of the Pharisees have believed in him, have they? But this mob, which knows nothing about the law, is bound to be accursed." One of them, Nicodemus, who had formerly gone to Jesus, said to them, "Our law does not condemn a man before it hears what he has to say and finds out what he is doing, does it?" Then they answered him, "You are not from Galilee too, are you? Search the record and see that no prophet has ever come from Galilee." Then Jesus again addressed them and said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever continues to follow me never need walk in darkness, but he will enjoy the light that means life." The Pharisees then said to him, "You are testifying to yourself. Your testimony is not true." Jesus answered them, "Even if I do testify to myself, my testimony is true, because I know where I have come from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. You are judging in accordance with external standards, but I judge nobody. Even if I should judge, my decision is fair, because I am not alone, but there are two of us, I and the Father who has sent me. Even in your own law it is written, 'The testimony of two persons is true.' I do testify to myself, and the Father who has sent me testifies to me." Then they began to say to him, "Where is your Father?" Jesus answered, "You do not know either me or my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father too." He said these things in the treasury as he was teaching in the temple, and yet no one ventured to arrest him, because the time had not yet come for him. Then Jesus again said to them, "I am going away, and you will look for me, but you will die under the curse of your sins, for where I am going you can never come." Then the Jews began to say, "He is not going to kill himself, is he? Is that why he said, 'Where I am going you can never come'?" He continued, "You are from below, I am from above. You belong to this present world. I do not belong to this present world. So I have told you that you would die under the curse of your sins, for unless you believe that I am the Christ, you will die under the curse of your sins." Then they asked him, "Who are you anyway?" Jesus answered them, "Why do I even talk to you at all? I have much to say about you and much to condemn in you, but he who sent me is truthful, and I am telling the world only what I have learned from him." They did not understand that he was speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said to them, "When you lift the Son of Man, you will know that I am the Christ, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but that I say exactly what my Father has instructed me to say. Yes, he who sent me is ever with me. I am not alone, because I always practice what pleases him." Even while he was saying this, many believed in him. So Jesus said to the Jews who believed in him, "If you live in accordance with what I teach, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are Abraham's descendants, and we never have been anybody's slaves. How can you say to us, 'You will be set free'?" Jesus answered them, "I most solemnly say to you, everyone who lives in sin is a slave of sin. Now a slave does not live permanently in a household, but a son does. So if the Son sets you free, you will be really free. I know that you are Abraham's descendants, and yet you are trying to kill me, because there is no room in you for my teaching. I am telling you what I have seen in my Father's presence, and you are practicing what you have learned from your father." They answered him, "Our father is Abraham." Jesus said to them, "If you are Abraham's children, you must be practicing what Abraham did. But right now you are trying to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that he has learned from God. Abraham never did that. You are practicing what your real father does." They said to him, "We are not illegitimate children. We have one Father, even God." Then Jesus said to them, "If God were your Father, you would love me, for I came from God and now am here. No, Indeed, I have not come on my own authority, but he has sent me. Why is it that you misunderstand what I say? It is because you cannot listen to what I teach. You sprang from the devil, your real father, and you want to practice your father's wishes. He was a murderer from the very start, and he does not understand by the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he tells a lie, he speaks out of his own nature, because he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Who of you can prove me guilty of sin? But if I do tell you the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is sprung from God listens to what God says. This is why you do not listen to me. You are not sprung from God. Then the Jews answered him, Are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and are under the power of a demon? Jesus answered, I am not under the power of a demon. On the other hand, I am honoring my Father, but you are dishonoring me. However, I am not seeking honor for myself. There is one who is seeking it for me, and he is judge. I most solemnly say to you, if anyone follows my teachings, he will never experience death. Then the Jews said to him, Now we know that you are under the power of a demon. Abraham is dead, the prophets too, and yet you say, if anyone follows my teaching, he will never experience death. You are not greater than our forefather Abraham, are you? He is dead, and the prophets are dead. Who do you claim to be? Jesus answered, If I glorify myself, such glory amounts to nothing. It is the Father who glorifies me, and you claim that he is your God. And yet you have not learned to know him, but I know him. And if I say I do not know him, I will be a liar like you. On the other hand, I do know him, and I do follow his teaching. Your forefather Abraham exulted in the hope of seeing my day. He has seen it and is glad of it. The Jews then said to him, You are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? Then Jesus said to them, I most solemnly say to you, I existed before Abraham was born. At this the Jews took up stones to stone him, but Jesus made his way out of the temple unperceived. As he passed along, he saw a man who had been blind from his birth. So his disciples asked him, Teacher, for whose sin was this man born blind, his own or that of his parents? Jesus answered, It was neither for his own sin nor that of his parents, but to show what God could do in his case. We must continue to do the work of him who sent me while it is daylight. Night is coming when no one can do any work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. On saying this, he spit on the ground and made clay with the saliva and put it on the man's eyes and said, Go and wash them in the pool of Siloam, which means one who has been sent. So he went and washed them and went home seeing. Now his neighbors and those who saw that he was formerly blind kept saying, Is not this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said, Yes, it is he. Others said, No, but it surely does look like him. He himself said, I am the man. So they kept on asking him, How in the world did you come to see? He answered, The man called Jesus made some clay and rubbed it on my eyes and said to me, Go to Siloam and wash them. So when I had gone and washed them, I could see. Then they asked him, Where is he? He answered, I do not know. They took the man who had been blind to the Pharisees. Now it was on the Sabbath when Jesus had made the clay and caused the man's eyes to see. So the Pharisees again asked him how he had come to see. He answered them, He put some clay on my eyes and washed them, and so now I can see. Then some of the Pharisees said, This man does not come from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. Others said, How can a sinful man perform such wonder works? So there was a difference of opinion among them. Then again they asked the blind man, What do you say about him yourself, since he has made your eyes to see? He answered, He is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe that he had really been blind and that he had come to see again, until they called the parents of the man who saw again, and asked them, Is this your son, and do you affirm that he was born blind? If so, how is it then that he now can see? His parents answered, We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But we do not know how it is that he now can see, or who it was that made his eyes to see. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone owned Jesus as the Christ, he should be shut out of the synagogues. This is why his parents said, "He is of age, ask him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know this man is a sinner." Then he answered, "I do not know whether he is a sinner. I do know one thing, that once I was blind, but now I can see." Again they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he make your eyes to see again?" He answered them, "I have already told you, and you would not listen to me. Why do you want to hear it again? You do not want to become his disciples, do you?" Then they jeered him and said, "You are a disciple of his yourself, but we are disciples of Moses. We do know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this fellow comes from." The man answered them, "Well, there is something strange about this. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he has made my eyes to see. We know that God does not listen to sinful men, but he does listen to anyone who worships God and lives to do his will. It has never been heard of in this world that anyone ever made the eyes of a man who was born blind to see. If this man had not come from God, he could not have done anything like this." Then they retorted, "You were born in total depravity, and yet you are trying to teach us?" And so they turned him out of the synagogue. Jesus heard that they had turned the man out of the synagogue. So he found him and said to him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man yourself?" He answered, "Who is he, sir? Tell me, so that I may believe in him." Jesus answered him, "You have seen him. You are talking to him right now." So he said, "Lord, I believe." Then he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, "I have come into this world to judge people, so that those who do not may see, and those who do see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and asked him, "We are not blind, are we?" Jesus answered them, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty. But now you keep on claiming we can see, so your sin remains. I most solemnly say to you, whoever does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs over at some other place, is a thief and a robber. But the one who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The doorkeeper opens the door to him, and the sheep obey his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. So when he gets his sheep all out, he goes on before them, and the sheep come on behind him, because they know his voice. But they will never come on behind a stranger, but will run away from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers." Jesus told them this allegory, but they did not understand what he meant by it. So Jesus said to them again, "I most solemnly say to you, I am the door to the sheepfold myself. All who come as such before me are thieves and robbers, but the true sheep would not listen to them. I am the door myself. Whoever enters through me will be saved, and will go in and out and find pasture. A thief does not come for any purpose but to steal and kill and destroy. I have come for people to have life and have it till it overflows. I am the good shepherd myself. The good shepherd gives his own life for his sheep. The hired man, who is not a shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf carries off some of the sheep and scatters the flock. This is because he is a hired man and does not care a straw for the sheep. I am the good shepherd myself. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I am giving my own life for my sheep. I have other sheep too that do not belong to this fold. I must lead them too, and they will listen to my voice, and all my sheep will become one flock with one shepherd. This is why the Father loves me, because I am giving my own life to take it back again. No one has taken it from me, but I am giving it as a free gift. I have the right to give it, and I have the right to take it back. I have gotten this order from my Father." These words again led to difference of opinion among the Jews. Many of them said, "He is under the power of a demon and is going crazy. Why are you listening to him?" Others said, "These are not the words of a man who is under the power of a demon. A demon cannot make the eyes of a blind man see, can he?" At that time came the feast of rededication at Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in Solomon's portico. So the Jews surrounded him and kept asking him, "How much longer are you going to keep us in suspense? If you are really the Christ, tell us so plainly." Jesus answered them, I have already told you so, but you do not believe me. The works which I am doing on my Father's authority are my credentials, but still you do not believe in me, for you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give to them eternal life, and they shall never get lost, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who gave them to me is stronger than all, and no one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. The Father and I are one. The Jews again picked up stones to stone him. Jesus answered them, I have shown you many good deeds from my Father. For which of them are you going to stone me? The Jews retorted, It is not for a good deed, but for blasphemy we are going to stone you, namely, because you, although a mere man, claim to be God. Jesus answered them, Is it not written in your law, I said, you are gods? If men to whom God's message came are called gods, and the scriptures cannot be made null and void, do you now say to me, whom my Father is set apart to it and sent into the world, you are a blasphemer, because I said, I am the Son of God? If I am not doing the things that my Father is doing, do not believe me. But if I am doing so, even if you will not believe me, believe the deeds, that you may come to know and continue to know that the Father is in union with me, and I am in union with the Father. Once more they were trying to arrest him, but he escaped from their hands. He again crossed the Jordan at the place where John at first used to baptize, and there he stayed. And many people came to him and kept on saying, John did not perform any wonder works, but everything he ever said about this man was true. And so many of them at that place believed in him. Now a man was sick. It was Lazarus, who lived in Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was the Mary who poured the perfume upon the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So the sisters sent this message to Jesus, Lord, listen, the one you love so well is sick. When Jesus received the message, he said, The sickness is not to end in death, but is to honor God, that the Son of God through it may be honored. Now Jesus held in loving esteem Martha and her sister and Lazarus. But when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed over for 2 days in the place where he was. After that, he said to his disciples, Let us go back to Judea. The disciples said to him, Teacher, the Jews just now were trying to stone you, and are you going back there again? Jesus answered, Does not the day have 12 hours? If a man travels in the daytime, he does not stumble, for he can see the light of this world. But if he travels in the nighttime, he does stumble, because he has no light. He said this, and after that he added, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has merely fallen asleep, he will recover. But Jesus had spoken about his death. However, they supposed that he was referring to falling into a natural sleep. So Jesus then told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sake that I was not there, so that you may come to have real faith in me. But let us go to him. Then Thomas the twin said to his fellow disciples, Let us go too, and die with him. When Jesus reached there, he found that Lazarus had been buried for 4 days. Now Bethany is only about 2 miles from Jerusalem, and a goodly number of Jews had come out to see Martha and Mary, to sympathize with them over their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Then Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask God for, he will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise at the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life myself. Whoever continues to believe in me will live right on, even though he dies. And no person who continues to live and believe in me will ever die at all. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. On saying this, she went back and called her sister Mary, whispering to her, The teacher is here and is asking for you. As soon as she heard it, she jumped up and started to Jesus, for he had not yet come into the village. but he was still at the place where Martha had met him. So the Jews who were with her in the house, sympathizing with her, when they saw Mary jump up and go out, followed her, because they supposed that she was going to the grave to pour out her grief there. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she threw herself at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." So when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping too, he sighed in sympathy and shook with emotion and asked, "Where have you laid him?" They answered, "Lord, come and see." Jesus burst into tears. So the Jews said, "See how tenderly he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not this man who made that blind man see have kept Lazarus from dying?" Now Jesus sighed again and continued to sigh as he went to the grave. It was a cave with a stone lying over the mouth of it. Jesus said, "Slip the stone aside." The dead man's sister Martha said to him, "Lord, by this time he is offensive, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not promise you that if you would believe in me, you should see the glory of God?" So they slipped the stone aside. And Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you for listening to me. Yes, I know that you always listen to me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd that is standing by, that they may come to believe that you have sent me." On saying this, he shouted aloud, "Lazarus, come out!" Then out came the dead man, his feet and hands tied with wrappings and his face tied up with a handkerchief. Jesus said to them, "Untie him and let him go." Thus many of the Jews who came to see Mary and who saw what Jesus had done believed in him, but some of them went back to the Pharisees and told them what he had done. So the high priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the council and began to say, "What are we to do? For this man is certainly performing many wonder works. If we let him go on this way, everybody will believe in him, and the Romans will come and blot out both our city and nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing about this. You do not take into account that it is for your own welfare that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should be destroyed." Now he did not say this on his own authority, but because he was high priest that year, he uttered this prophecy from God, that Jesus was to die for the nation, and not only for the nation, but also to unite the scattered children of God. So from that day they plotted to kill Jesus. It was for this reason that Jesus no more appeared in public among the Jews, but he left that part of the country and went to the district near the desert, to a town called Ephraim, and stayed there with his disciples.